Assalamu alaikum, 5th grade. Today we're going to talk about classification of animals. At the beginning, you know that animals are made of many cells. They can grow, change, they can reproduce, and they can move from one place to another. Animals can be classified or divided into two groups depending on whether or not they have a backbone. So, what is a backbone? Now, look at these skeletons here. This is a skeleton of a cat. This is a skeleton of a bird. This is a skeleton of a fish, a frog, and a lizard. I want you to notice the series of bones that runs down the back of this animal here, of this cat. This series of bones that runs down the back of the animal is called a backbone. It's called a backbone. What is a backbone? It's a series of bones that runs down the back of some animals. An animal that has a backbone is called a vertebrate. Vertebrate. So these are vertebrate animals. These are examples of vertebrate animals: a snake, a fish, a horse, a frog, and a bird. Each one of these animals belong to a specific group. Now, look at this picture here. These are invertebrate animals. That means they don't have backbones. Snail, squid, earthworm, a grasshopper, a bee, all these animals are invertebrate. That means that they don't have backbones. Let's start with vertebrate animals. Scientists classified vertebrate animals into 5 groups: mammals, like birds, fish, reptiles, like this lizard, birds, and amphibians, like this frog here. Now I'm gonna talk about each group. I'm gonna give you examples of each group, and we're gonna mention the special traits or characteristics of each group too. Let's begin with mammals. Look at these pictures. These are examples of mammals. Now, mammals reproduce by giving birth, and they produce milk for their young. What covers their body? Let's take this horse for an example. What covers this horse's body? Hair. Here we have wool for these sheep here, and fur for this fox. Now, how do they breathe? They breathe with their lungs. Mammals breathe with their lungs. And they live in different environments. Some mammals live in water, like whales, like dolphins. And you can see that it can breathe with its lungs. These animals swim to the water surface when they need to take a breath. This lion here live in land, and they use his legs to walk or to run. Bats also mammals, and they can fly. They are covered with fur, and they reproduce by giving birth. So some mammals live in water and swim, some mammals walk or run, and some mammals like bats fly. Now, birds, the second group of vertebrate animals. Look at these pictures. Now, as you can see, birds have a beak, 2 wings, they are covered with feathers, they can fly, Not all of them, but mostly they are flying, and they build nests. And as you can see here, bird parents feed the young until they are strong enough to find their own food. They breathe with their lungs and they reproduce by laying eggs. Now, quick information: big birds like owls, they have hollow bones. And why is that? Because hollow bones make the bird lightweight so it can fly easily. Look at this ostrich here and these penguins. These are birds, but they cannot fly. They don't have the ability of flying. Now we're going to talk about fish. Now, fish are vertebrates that live in water. They have spindle shape. They have long, narrow bodies that make it easy for them to move through water. They are covered with scales, hard, thin, flat plates that protect them and help them swim. They reproduce by laying eggs, and they have tails and fins, and they breathe with their gills. Now, talking about amphibians, we have two examples of amphibians: frog and salamanders. I'm going to show you pictures of young salamanders and young frog. So an amphibian is a vertebrate that starts its life in the water and then lives on land as an adult. Young amphibians look very different from adults. The young breathe with gills and have tails that help them swim. As young amphibians grow, their bodies change, lungs and legs develop, and their gills disappear. After the young amphibians' bodies change, they live on land and they breathe air with their lungs. Now, how do they reproduce? As you can see here, this is the adult female frog. It lays eggs in water. Eggs in water. So they reproduce by laying eggs, and they are covered with wet, smooth skin, moist, smooth skin. To the last group of vertebrate animals, reptiles. These are examples of reptiles: turtle, snake, and crocodiles. A reptile is a vertebrate that has dry, scaly skin. Dry, scaly skin. It protects the animal's body, and it prevents it from drying out. Now, reptiles breathe with their lungs. They reproduce by laying eggs. They are covered with scaly, dry skin. Now, how do they move? How do they move? Now, snakes, they don't have any legs, so they slither along the ground, or they crawl on their bellies. This crocodile here using his short legs. And that's it for vertebrate animals. Now, moving on to invertebrate animals. Invertebrate animals, that means that they don't have backbones. And you know that most of the animals on earth are invertebrate.